war in Gaza, which has been now going on for almost 2 years, as you rightly said, it has become an enigma for the region, not only for the region but for the entire globe. Israelis were masters of short and swift conflicts where they went all in, very sharp, very precise. The problem is that the Hamas and Israel are having two very conflicting and contradicting positions, and from which they are not able to find the common bridge. One is the United States, which is supporting Israel in all its efforts, whether justified or not justified, it doesn't matter. And second is Israel itself. Firstly, Qatar has been the chief mediator for ceasefire between Hamas and Israel for 2 years, and it is based on Israel's direct or indirect, but US's direct request that the Hamas leadership was housed in Doha for so many years. Second is Saudi Arabia and India have a very potent, very robust strategic partnership. Pakistan will definitely expect money coming from Saudi Arabia. Money for what? Money for military modernization. Money for buying and equipping itself with new and modern weapon platforms. And the 7th October attack into Israel was clearly a terror attack. So India was amongst the first to call out this terror attack.
Welcome to another episode of Chintan Speaks, an initiative by Chintan Research Foundation, where we dive into deeper conversations about the changing geopolitical situation. I'm Dr. Chavi Vasisht, Associate Fellow at CRF, and today we have with us Colonel Rajeev Agarwal, a military veteran and a senior consultant at CRF. Today we will break down the complex and rapidly shifting dynamics in West Asia, which is shaping the political and security landscape of the region. So we are nearing the 2-year mark of the Gaza war and the conflict that has tragically resulted in over 65,000 deaths and millions being displaced. Despite the global pressure, the ceasefire efforts have not yielded results, and Israel continues to refuse to back down. So as we see these new developments unfolding, even at the UNGA session, the big question remains that how do you see this war ending, and what are the realistic possibilities from here?
So thank you, Chavi. It's a pleasure to be here on Chintan Speak. And yes, this war in Gaza, which has been now going on for almost 2 years, as you rightly said, it has become an enigma for the region, not only for the region but for the entire globe. And why it has become so is because the region as well as the globe was not used to such prolonged conflicts happening in the region. Israelis were masters of short and swift conflicts where whenever there was an issue which arose as far as their national security was concerned, they went all in, very sharp, very precise, did their operations, and they were back in 10 days, 12 days, 4 weeks, but never did it prolong so long. So that is why, it has become a kind of a riddle which nobody is able to solve. And to my mind, there are a few things that we have to keep in mind when we talk of Gaza war. One is the end state. So I have spoken to a number of Israeli officials, very senior officials, and they themselves are not clear on the what they call as quote unquote day after, because they say till the time their military objectives are achieved, they cannot think of a scenario which is day after. Now, you would ask me why, sir, after 2 years with such military superiority and uncontested, situation in the war zone, Israel is still not able to achieve the military objectives. So therein lies the whole question of the prolongation of the war, that the military objectives that Israel set for itself was so unrealistic and so almost unachievable that they themselves are not able to do it, and their senior commanders, even their ex chief of the defense staff, has questioned it. You would see what is happening in the UN General Assembly. France has gone out and accepted the Palestine state. Australia has gone out. UK has gone out, and today we have more than 150 countries which have recognized the state of Palestine. But still, it is not ending. So the problem is that the Hamas and Israel are having two very conflicting and contradicting positions, and from which they are not able to find the common bridge. So Israel is saying that they want all their hostages to be released in one go without the assurance that they would vacate the Gaza Strip, withdraw all their troops, and without any assurance that there will be no extension of this conflict hereafter. Hamas is saying that we are ready to return all the hostages, but the withdrawal of the Israeli troops plus an international guarantee that the conflict will not resume should be a part of the deal, and they are not finding any meeting ground. So it is very difficult to say how this war is going to end or not end. You may have heard, or the viewers may have heard, a few days back, Israeli Prime Minister has gone on record and said that there is no question of having a Palestine state in the future, and that he has been working on this philosophy for a number of years, but today he is ready to declare it that there is no state of Palestine that he can envision. And because of that reason, he is increasing the scope of settlements in the West Bank, so that there's hardly any scope left for a independent state of Palestine once the settlements grow in space and density. So it's a very difficult proposition, and there are only two actors who can end this war or bring this war to an end. One is the United States, which is supporting Israel in all its efforts, whether justified or not justified, it doesn't matter. And second is Israel itself. So till the time the internal conversations in Israel reach a point where it actually starts impinging on the health and sanctity of the government, I don't think it is going to happen.
So, carrying forward from this Israel and US actors, that the key stakeholders you're mentioning, the recent Israeli military action targeting the Hamas leadership in Qatar represents a noticeable
Yes.
escalation of the situation. And this has sent shockwaves in the region and prompted a reassessment of whether US can actually play as a reliable partner, provide that security umbrella that it has claimed to provide so in the region. And do we expect future more such incidents, and which can have a broader implications on the Gulf security?
Yeah, I mean, Chavi, you have raised a very, very valid question. The strike on Hamas leadership in Qatar on 9th September was so surprising and so unexpected that everybody is still in a state of shock as far as the West Asian region is concerned. Why? For two reasons. Firstly, Qatar has been the chief mediator for ceasefire between Hamas and Israel for 2 years. And it is based on Israel's direct or indirect, but US's direct request that the Hamas leadership was housed in Doha for so many years. The second is because this is the first instance that a Gulf nation has been hit militarily by Israel. So Israel has hit Syria, it has hit Lebanon, it has hit Iran, it has hit Iraq, and obviously it has been hitting West Bank and Gaza. But it has never crossed into the GCC or the Gulf region. So today the question that people are asking is that if Qatar could be targeted, then what else? And why are they asking this? Because Qatar holds the largest military base of the United States in the West Asian region. Largest military base means largest air assets, largest surveillance system, most potent air defense and missile system, and obviously a very good and effective satellite surveillance coverage. So people are saying, how is it possible and how can you justify that the United States had to be told by Israel, quote unquote, 10 minutes before the Israel missile was to land in Qatar, that a missile is incoming into Qatar? That means, for a military man like me, it sounds so ridiculous that a missile defense is ineffective and it requires a telephone call to be alerted.
True.
So it not only tells you the ineffectiveness of the missile defense if it is there, but also the complicity of the United States in what Israel is doing. And once United States is complicit as well as a partner in this kind of strike, then the whole reliability factor goes for a 6. So you saw the emergency summit which took place, Arab Islamic Emergency Summit. They discussed the whole thing. The 25-point joint statement which has been issued is all talk about everything in unreliability of the United States, condemning Israel. It has fallen short of actionable points. But the sense of disbelief and the sense of not being able to rely on US security umbrella is very palpable in the region.
Absolutely. And so let's not forget about the recent significant and rather surprising development in the region. That is the new defense pact between Saudi
Yes.
Arabia and Pakistan. So, what does this pact mean for the balance of power? And should India be worried about its implications for its own security interest?
So again, like you said, Qatar was a surprise. This was again a big surprise. But if you add two and two together in what has been going on, this is one of the fallback options for the Gulf region as such. It may be a defense pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, but it tells you the state of affairs in the Gulf region. So US, like we just discussed in the previous part of the discussion, US has now proved itself to be an unreliable security partner in the region. Then you have to move on for other options. China is not ready to put any security factor, or I would say active security factor, into its relation with the Gulf region or anywhere in the Gulf. And there is no way that China is ready to put any boots or active weapon platforms on the Gulf soil for their defense. Russia, the next possibility, it is embroiled in the war in Ukraine, and it has got no time and space to become an alternative to providing Gulf security. What is the next option? India. India still, we know, not ready, because it is focusing on issues which are more domestic, more empowering as far as its own growth is concerned. And so you find a player springing out from the dark, Pakistan, always willing to do anything that is not happening. Plus, it is got the card of the Muslim brother. It's a Muslim brother for the region. So it became a big, yes, like I've written in my article, go-to person for Saudi Arabia. And why so? We should just take our minds back to a few months. Operation Sindoor, the kind of beating that Pakistan got militarily, politically, economically, as also morally, was unprecedented. So now this kind of a pact suddenly gives it a voice and face in the region. That yes, we have signed a defense pact with Saudi Arabia. Coming to India, the second part of the question you said, I don't think and visualize this pact to be directed against India. It is more to do with what Saudi Arabia and the West Asian or the Gulf region wants for their security, rather than what they can do for beefing or helping Pakistan against India. Because if the Saudi Arabia or the Gulf region was so militarily capable, then they would have, if once the US proved unreliable, they would have found their own measures to do security guarantees for themselves. Second is, Saudi Arabia and India have a very, very potent, very, very robust strategic partnership, in which defense relations also are a very key element to it. And Saudi Arabia also made it clear a day after the pact was signed that the partnership with India is very robust, and in words to the effect that India has nothing to fear.
Right.
But there are two things that India has to be concerned about. I would not say fear, but concerned about. This defense pact, once it fructifies and once it moves on, Pakistan will definitely expect money coming from Saudi Arabia. Money for what? Money for military modernization. Money for buying and equipping itself with new and modern weapon platforms. Why? On the pretext of being ready to provide security to Saudi Arabia or additional partners that may come up. But what is the consequence? As and when required, those weapon platforms will be available to Pakistan against India. The second is the terror network. Not only the money, but the morale boosting that you get by signing such pact gives a fillip to the terror network, which has found itself, in deep doldrums after the Operation Sindoor. So these are the two reasons, or these are the two fallouts, indirect fallouts of this defense pact that should be of concern to India. So we need to be vigilant. We need to keep a watch at it. But I don't think this defense pact is directed anything against India.
So, further getting into India's position, New Delhi has tried to maintain its balance, a very fine balance throughout the West Asian conflict, as you said. So, has this strategy been successful? And as the geopolitical sands have shifted, what do you think India has as best options going forward?
So, Dr. Chavi, India has tried its best for last 2 years to maintain what I say and many others have said, a fine balance as far as its diplomatic outreach in the region is concerned. So, what do I mean by fine balance? On one hand, it had to support the cause for the Palestine state and the two-state solution, which India has been championing for a number of decades. But on the same page, India has also developed a very, very strong and close strategic partnership with Israel. And there is a sense that Israel is one of the most reliable partners on strategic and defense issues as far as India is concerned, because on many occasions, when the entire world had dumped India or had not come to its help, it was Israel which had helped India. So naturally, there was a sense that we should be not seen opposing Israel the way many parts of the world is doing. Another factor which was in favor of India's support to Israel was the terror. India has maintained a very, very clear and strict position on terror. And the 7th October attack into Israel was clearly a terror attack. So India was amongst the first to call out this terror attack. And then it recalibrated its position also to, say that we support peaceful resolution of the Palestine issue, etc., etc., etc. Even recently, on two occasions, one at the SCO joint statement on 31st of August, and secondly, few days later at the UNHRC meeting. On both the occasions, India has been party to the joint statement or unilaterally, individually stating it in the statement that they have condemned the Israeli attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar, and that sovereignty of a nation cannot be violated. India had also indirectly said that when Iran was attacked by Israel, that a peaceful dialogue should be the way out, and sovereignty of nations should not be violated. So India has been trying to do a very fine balancing act in the region. Some say it has been successful, some say it has not been successful, but I say, given the circumstances and given the position that India had within the region, we have played well. Coming to going forward and linking it with your previous question of Pakistan Saudi Defense Pact. In your initial remarks, you said that the geopolitical situation in West Asia is evolving rapidly. Right? So, within that, security is a very big dynamic. The entire conflict we have just discussed does not seem to end very soon. It could prolong on, and new layers could be added to the conflict if Israel goes by its word that it could target any country anywhere if they are quote unquote harboring terrorists. So now US has proved unreliable, Israel has proving belligerent and aggressive, China is not available, Russia is not available, and India is not ready to step up. So what has happened? Pakistan has stepped in. We all know that whenever a security vacuum or a space is created, it will be filled up. So, in this rapidly changing global order and specifically in the West Asian region, India, to my mind, does not have the choice today to maintain neutrality or to sit out. Because then, 10 years down the line, when a new architecture has evolved, when a new structure has come up, and India is not part of it, and indirectly India is getting adversely affected by it, then we would have no one to blame. Right. So I would say India has to measure its capacity and capabilities, see how it wants to be seen 10 years, 20 years down the line, and make use of this space that is being created, because this space will not come again if we do not take this opportunity.
You were suggesting that we must take pragmatic actions and we must be part of this.
Correct. Whatever the order is evolving, India should be in rather than sitting on the sidelines. True. We may not be ready to put boots on ground, and in any architecture, it is not some American model that needs to be followed. That you set up bases, you set up troops. No. There are many ways in which an evolving structure can take shape, and you can be part of it. But we can't be sitting on the sidelines and watching from far how the global, the regional order is evolving in West Asia. That's what I'm trying to say.
And that brings us to the end of our discussion today. The questions that we have raised here today do not have very easy answers. And understanding the geopolitical calculus is something, the starting point that we have to comprehend whatever the future of West Asia holds. And it is clear that the region is in a complete state of flux. The choices made by the key players will have lasting consequences in the future. And India's ability to maintain a strategic balance, this will be tested out in future. And as
Correct.
said, that we need both a pragmatic approach and an agile diplomatic approach here. Thank you, sir, for joining us today in this deep dive. And join us for the next episode of Chintan Speaks. And this is me signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chavi.